One. G'day guys, this is Jay here from Journey of a Whitefeather with a frog in his throat. There you go. Could have been a wallaby already, but no, we won't say that. Laverne, I decided to say, man, what a great part one. We're going into your spiritual awakening now. So if you haven't listened to part one, guys, you've got to get on here and chat. If you want to get DM, Laverne, we'll give him his details will be below. Will be below. The interview process or the viewing that you're seeing right now. Lost for words. Time for you to go on your spiritual awakening, Mr. Blaine. Thank you very much for part two, my friend.
Thank you, Jay.
Go for it.
So,
all yours.
All right. So, when I got back from the States, from that training course I talked about, I ended up applying for a new job, or a job with a different agency. I was successful, which kind of surprised me because I thought that it was so obvious how much I was suffering, right? I thought any minute they would see through my facade, but they didn't. A few months after that, I was involved in an incident where I kind of froze and I didn't respond, and you kind of had a panic attack. And so that was the catalyst for me to go get help. So I went and got real help from a therapist who understood. The previous therapist I had been seeing didn't really understand the world of first responders, but I had also been self-stigmatizing and lying to myself about everything. So she couldn't really help me anyway. Yeah. The new therapist I found, though, she asked me some really tough questions and called me on my bullshit. So best type of therapist. Yeah.
It's always good, mate.
Yeah. So that was a process of learning about myself and, all of the childhood abuse and conditioning had shaped me. I want to talk about one thing really quick, though.
Go, mate. All yours.
And I found gratitude for the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life.
Tell us a bit about that, mate, because there's a lot of stuff out there that said you've got to forgive even the worst things.
Yeah.
You don't forget, but you use that power. And look, it's a hard thing. I'm still coming to terms with it myself.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Mate. So we were doing EMDR therapy for your listeners who might not understand, it's eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing. And there's a process where your eyes move, follow a screen or dots on a screen, whatever it might be, and you kind of go through the process. And so my therapist asked me what was bothering me the most at that time, and I told her, and then she said, feel that sensation in your body, and I felt it. And then she said, when was the first time you ever felt that sensation? And I knew instantly what it was. It was the icy cold fear that I felt the second time I was about to be sexually assaulted. And it was crystal clear to me. And so we felt with that.
Okay, we've got a bit of a pause there, guys. We're sorry about that. We've lost Laverne for a minute. He'll come back in one sec, but just to carry on with what we're doing here, we'll do speaker view. We'll do speaker view here. No, we'll just do this one here, gallery. Okay. Let's just keep going, mate. Keep going from where you were. No problem.
Did you hear all of that?
Go for it again, mate. Let's redo it. We have to do a third part. We'll do a third part.
All right, sounds good. So I was involved in an instant where I kind of froze. I had a panic attack, and that was the catalyst for me to go get healing. I went and found a new therapist, and the previous therapist hadn't helped me. I had been self-stigmatizing and lying to myself about how bad it was. And so she couldn't help me either, but she couldn't understand either. I don't think she understood the first responder world. So I found a psychologist that specialized in trauma, and I went to see her, and she was exceptional. She still is. She taught me a lot about my childhood and abuse and the conditioning and how that was affecting me today.
Yep.
And one of the most profound part of healing that I ever had was during EMDR therapy, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And she asked me what was bothering me today. And I told her, and she said, now feel the sensation in your body when you think about that. And I did. And then she asked me to tell her the first time I thought of, or I had felt that sensation in my body. And it was the icy cold fear that I felt when I was about to be in the minutes leading up to my second sexual assault. And because I knew what was about to happen. And so I felt that fear, and then we started the EMDR process. And at the end of the EMDR session, she asked me what, or to name something good that came from that. And it was instantaneous for me. It was, I'm a better dad because of this. And being able to find gratitude for the worst thing that ever happened to me is so profound, because if I can find gratitude for that, I can find gratitude for literally anything in life. And when you have the gratitude, it changes your life. It changes your outlook on life. You view the world differently. And I believe it's a very key process in personal growth and healing. I had a long journey to go. I was in therapy constantly for quite a while, but I learned a lot about myself, and it was very empowering for me. And I began to set boundaries. And
so can I just say, sorry to cut you off there, but I get a lot of questions from people that I talk to going through what you just went through, and then getting to a point. I think the main thing is we actually opened up to ourselves, wasn't it? It's not a case of worrying about anyone else, even the thing that happened or the person that happened with. We actually changed the focus onto ourselves. Would that be fair to say with what you're saying there? Is that the main sort of goal, even the gratitude that you had?
Yeah.
The gratitude was you actually found yourself, as well as all the other things that you said. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I found though, it's kind of a lonely process, because a lot of people start leaving your life.
Absolutely.
And,
yes.
Right.
Yes. Absolutely. They don't understand you. You become a different. They go, "Oh, you've changed." No, I haven't. I've just grown up, mate. I'm just grown up. I've woken up to your bullshit or whatever it is. I've started to work out, there's a boundary here. You know, whether you're an energy vampire or just, you're a nice person, but you're not on my frequency. We'll talk about frequencies later because you get it. Keep going. Sorry to interrupt there. Keep going.
Yeah, no worries, man. So one of the relationships that fell apart was my marriage, and I moved out, and we still do share custody of the children.
Yep.
But I still had a lot of anxiety back then. But what I also had was I had started to see certain behaviors from my ex-wife that led me to believe that the divorce would be nasty, which would, I believed she would come for full custody of the children, take me for all I was worth. And so I began to fear that I would be broke and not being able to see my children for a few years.
Right.
And so I was on internet forums trying to figure stuff out, which is not necessarily the best place to go because there's a lot of negativity on the internet.
But we all know that, mate. This is our first sign when we actually want help. And we're sort of finding that like if you go through, it's like when you start school and then you get to a point of when you're mature and you get a degree or whatever, you still got to go through those processes. And I have to accept that myself.
Yeah. So, but somewhere on the internet, I found a video that said, basically, you have to accept it. Just accept it. And I'm like, that's bullshit. I don't have to accept any, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think I intuitively knew that it would work. And I had been doing meditation and breath work to try to keep my nerves regulated. And because divorce can be quite a stressful, nasty time.
It can be,
and
absolutely.
mine was quite tumultuous for me. And so I tried to accept it, and it took me over 3 days. And I was sitting on my couch, I was crying, I was trying to accept it, and I was envisioning the worst case scenario. And then I accepted it. And the instant that I accepted it, I realized it would never happen. And I
Can I ask,
realized,
keep going. Sorry, I'll get to the question
yeah,
that I've got here written down here. Keep going.
and I realized all the reasons why it would never happen. And I was completely at peace. The tears stopped, and I began to trust in a higher power. And right during that time, I read the book, Wayne Dyer. There's a spiritual solution to every problem.
Yeah, that's right. Like,
Man,
there's
and
so
changed
many
my
good
life.
ones. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mate. Yeah. Well,
And
I'll get a photo of that. Can I just get that book that you wrote? So I might stick that up on the as a little icon. What was the one, Wayne Dyer? Which one?
There's a spiritual solution to every problem.
I'll get that up for the final cut.
And,
Keep going.
And what an amazing book. And in there, he talks about how problems are creations of our mind. If we decide it's not going to be a problem, it won't be a problem. And so me accepting that I'm not going to see my kids for 4 or 5 years, and I'm going to be broke for 4 or 5 years, is me deciding that that's not going to be a problem for me. And then it wasn't. And then it never has happened. And if anything, the reverse has been true, especially with how often I get to see my children.
So you look at the frequency, Laverne, look at your frequency, what you've done. You made a choice, conscious choice to change your mind, your way of thinking. Because if we want to go frequency and vibration wise, we've both done it where we've gone and looked at the negative, and it's very hard to get out of that side of things. We still go back there, but having the power of choice and understanding that, I suppose Dr. Dyer said, if you can accept what's happening and let it go and get your vibration up and focusing on you, because the fun thing that people have is when they accept, they think they become a people pleaser. So that's where you have to tame your ego, but we'll talk about that later. Keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that was monumental for me. I just so personally empowered by that. But I was just thinking though, if you were to try to tell somebody, and if you were to try to tell me, I'd have the old me, I would have the same reaction, that you have to envision being broke and not being able to see your kids for 4 or 5 years, and then you'll be happy. Man, I would call you on your bullshit. That's a hard sell, right? That's a hard sell.
But okay, all right. We're going to sell. We're selling this right now. What is the mindset of telling someone like that? I get it. I mean, you're talking to the converted here, but understanding why you do it. Why do you think, in your mind, if you're going to talk to someone and you tell someone, okay, we'll go to the divorced kid thing. You're going to lose your kids for 5 years. You're not going to have any money, and you got to love it. How would you go about what you went through telling someone you got to accept that, and understanding flow and all vibration and frequency? What do you reckon?
Well, that's a tough one. I would start by saying,
what you're telling me. Not what you're telling me.
It's going with the flow, right? Like,
yes, universal law.
Drops,
that's where I'm going. That's it. Keep
going. The drops of water in the river don't try to go upstream. They go with the flow, right? And
it's a catchphrase, isn't it? Okay, sorry to cut you off again, but I'm thinking, because I had this when I was in Canada, because I saw a lot of trees and rivers.
Yeah.
The universal law of these basic ideas, when you look at a river and you compare it to your life, and people think you're crazy, but being where we are and having the choice and vibration where we're at now, and understanding where our subconscious mind was and is now, we can relate to us being a being of the earth and being aware of that. Does that make it? It doesn't make it any easier to explain, but we get it. What do you reckon?
Yeah. It's well, you know what? People have to be ready though, right? Because there's steps. It's like climbing a mountain or climbing
Yep.
up a flight of stairs, right?
Yep.
Because
Yep.
like I would have never been ready for that if I had not gone through my mental health crisis and then the subsequent healing and therapy after that.
Yep.
Right? Like not a chance. And
So the universe will put you into positions where you're nodding now. What I'm gonna say.
yeah,
So if
yeah,
you're not going to do it, the universe will force you. And force both of
yeah,
us into a mental health
yeah,
situation to get to us talking today.
yeah. And the universe will give us all kinds of signs first. Hints, do this, do this, do this. And if you don't listen, then you get the big awake or the big attention grabber, like the mental health crisis.
Wake up
right?
call. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And I was just thinking about it, like right after this stage in my life, I think the next book I wrote or I read was Awakening a New World or something like that by Eckhart Tolle.
Eckhart Tolle. Yeah, I've heard of that one. Yep.
Yeah.
Awakening,
yeah, it's
Awakening the World by Eckhart Tolle. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awakening a new life or something.
I'll look it up, I'll look it up and put it up there for you, my friend. No problem.
I can find it, but anyway, it's about ego death and your pain body. So it's called A New Earth: Awakening Your Life's Purpose.
New Earth, okay.
And it's about
I've seen that one.
Yeah, and it's about basically, to summarize, it's dealing with your ego and taking the ego equation out of your life a little bit, right? So it's not your ego making the calls. So that was very instrumental. That was basically my spiritual awakening. And I have to tell this because it's a really cool story. I was doing breath work and a meditation because I needed it to calm down. And I started saying my own mantras. And I wanted to stay calm through the divorce. So I would repeat, I am calm, peaceful, serene. I am loved and I love. And it was doing wonders.
Do some affirmations.
Yeah. And it was keeping it with the breath work and the meditation. It was doing wonders for me. And awesome. One night I started seeing orbs while I was meditating. I had no idea what it was. Right. And I didn't think about it. After a couple of days, though, I acknowledged that there was something there, and I opened my mind to it. Yep. And I saw a vision of my grandfather who died when I was 8 years old. And he told me, he said, there's going to be trials and tribulations, but it's to teach you patience. Go forth and show them the light. And when this happened, I was trying to get my divorce lawyer to hurry up the process. And, I was stressed. I was stressing about it and it wasn't going like I wanted. And so I decided, you know what? I'm going to stop emailing the lawyer. And 4 months after I stopped emailing him, I went down to the courthouse and I ran into one of the law enforcement officers down there protecting the courthouse. And he asked me, hey, what's new in your life? Whatever. I said, well, I'm getting divorced, blah, blah, blah. He said, who's your lawyer? And so I told him, and he said, well, who's her lawyer? And I told him, he's like, no. He said, you can't use her or you can't use him. They hate each other. I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, they used to be in a relationship and he dumped her and now she hates him. And I'm like, oh, well, I don't want to use him. And so I sent him off to ask the court clerks who would be a good lawyer for me to get. And then I went to another guy at the courthouse and I said, hey, buddy over here says I can't use my lawyer because my ex-wife has this other lawyer. And he starts laughing. He's like, oh no, she hates him, dude. And so this message from the universe saying that I needed to use patience could have saved me catastrophe.
These messages and stuff come like, yeah, okay. It's like, okay, I'll give you a good example. I thought I dropped $70 the other day. And I had a major issue with scarcity and holding on to things because of being young, not having a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Or just, living, living in a mindset of scarcity and fear. And then I've just gone, all right, lost it. And as soon as I did, I found it again. But the thing is, I found the money again. But the greater lesson is for me to follow through and stop thinking in a scarcity of things. Okay, we've given you this. You get it. So you can have it back. Never seen this happen before. You can have it back.
Yep.
Don't do it again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No more.
And it's amazing. It's amazing the vibration. And every time you it's like you have to raise your vibration for all aspects of your life.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Like
Yes.
That scarcity piece.
Yep.
Whatever it might be.
Insecurity. Self-esteem issues. Even talking to people, setting boundaries all day. I think the big thing for us is setting boundaries, Laverne. I think, not being a people pleaser or not getting angry at people who hurt us. We just actually set a boundary. My mentor, Diamond Dallas Page, I do DDP yoga with, and he said he made changes at 50, what he ate, being aware of what he ate, but also what he put into his body, but spiritually with people. So there's nothing wrong with having people, but knowing where your boundary is and setting some good boundaries. If the boundary doesn't work well, what do? Do you people please like you used to, or you just go, all right, I'll just step away. I don't think I need you.
Yeah. And it's so interesting to me because I learned such harsh lessons about people pleasing and, codependency. And I've set some amazing boundaries, but every once in a while, in a healthy relationship or friendship, whatever it might be, with a healthy person, I can still find myself being small sometimes. And I'm like, oh no. I catch it.
Yeah.
Right.
And,
but
what do you do in that situation? That's a really, really good point. What do you do when you catch yourself with it?
So if I catch myself, I think depends if it's on the go or not. Right.
Yep.
But I'll catch myself and I'll think about it and I'll change my mind. If I've given someone an answer and then in that conversation, I realize that actually, you know what? I made myself a little bit small there. I'll change my answer. I'll say, you know what? On second thought, I'm not able to do that for you or whatever it might be.
Okay.
And you always feel better because your subconscious, if you've made yourself a little bit small and you can adapt your answer too sometimes. It's not always a yes or no thing.
Yep.
But I find sometimes the way I talk to people, I want to make myself a little bit smaller.
Yes.
And so I'll change that. I'll just change a couple of words because you know what? We're all amazing, divine beings, and we should never make ourselves small because I find even just a little bit, if I do something that's a little bit not good for me, I feel it. I feel it really strongly now.
Yep.
And that whether that's sticking my hand in a bag of chips, and eating something that's not healthy for me, I feel how detrimental that is to me.
Yep, I'm the same. Yep, agree.
Right. But 10 years ago, I would think nothing of, I used to brag about how often I would help people move. Everybody asked me to help them move. And I wasn't doing anything for myself at home. I was just giving myself to everybody I knew, right?
Well, that's exactly right. We're all making content now, and I don't mind helping people, but I like helping myself. And I'm actually going to do a video on the word selfish. How I find now that selfish has been really manipulated to a negative word where it's actually not.
Yeah.
It's actually not a negative word. Oh, you're selfish. Yeah, exactly, mate. Because you're not going to help me. And then once you hit back with that, selfish meaning negatively, mate, people being mean. That's not being selfish. That's being mean.
Yeah.
Being selfish is a word that, you're self-sufficient. So it's being manipulated to a different way. But anyway, onto your awakening. where you are now, and what are you looking to do? What are you looking to do as a spiritual warrior or a white lighter or white worker or however you want to put it? What are you doing at this present stage other than putting out great videos?
Trying to put out more great videos.
Do you connect with groups or anything like that? Do you do any public speaking or anything like that? Or
Yep, a little bit. I just did a public speaking event here a couple of weeks ago. I love so I have to share. I learned early on that telling my story helped people. The first time I ever told my story, I call it my coming out on social media. I posted about, it was 5 or 6 paragraphs long about what I'd been through and stuff like that. And I got a message from a guy I used to work with about 10 years earlier. And he said, mate, it's been really hard for me lately. I've been staying off social media. I get on today. The first thing I see is what you've written. And he said, I started shaking. He said, I got about halfway through it and I started shaking and I realized you're writing my story. And that was so powerful for me.
And did you do videos yourself, Laverne? Did you just go out and do videos or anything like that? What did you do?
At that time, it was just a post on Facebook. I didn't do any videos at that time. And he just said I was telling his story. And so that empowered me to keep telling my story. And then people started coming out of the woodwork and told me, like, people I hadn't seen in 15 years. And they told me how much my story was helping them. So then I started doing public speaking, and I did an event a couple of weeks ago, like I said. It was a smaller event, but I had 4 people track me down from that event and tell me how much it had helped them. And the one couple, they didn't say it saved their marriage, but his wife was a therapist, but she realized, listening to my story, all the stuff that she was missing in her husband because she had only ever known him a certain way. And she's like, oh my God. And now she looks at him a totally different way. And, so it's so amazing. And all I had to do was go up and stand and talk for 20 minutes. Right. And so I love it. I love public speaking. I love coaching.
I can tell. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So kind of to further my story. So after my divorce, my spiritual awakening, then a couple years after that, I met a lady who, for the first time in my life, was showing me unconditional love.
And how did you feel? Okay, I'm going to ask you right there. How does it feel? Did you accept it?
I was a little skeptical at first.
I know it's hard for me. I'm telling you.
I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah, I was like, hang on a minute, what's going on here?
Yeah. So, but I felt safe for the first time in my life and felt loved. And then, about divine timing, a few months after we started dating, things kind of came to a head at work, and my psychologist told me that I needed to find a happier job. And just
quickly, we've got 10 minutes to go, but we're going to go to part 3. All right, I'm holding out for part 3. We're going to keep going. We're not going to stop.
All right. So she told me I needed to find a happier job. So I had a lot of anxiety, but I also had support at home for the first time in my life.
So how did that feel? I'm going to keep telling you. How did it feel? What was your mindset now that you've done all this work? You're fighting Skeletor in your head. I go He-Man Skeletor, right? So you're fighting Skeletor in his head with this young thing, and you got this. Now He-Man's coming and he's taking him out. How are you feeling? Are you battling? Are you still battling, or you're winning winning the battle?
There was a lot of uncertainty about my future. So I was anxious, but I was safe and anxious. If that it doesn't even make sense.
You got that. Right? We're going to be nervous if we still have the emotion. You're not going to say, "Oh, everything's going to be all right," because you can't do that. But it's how much emphasis you put on that. I know myself at the same time, how much emphasis you put on that. You can still have that emotion of, oh, hang on, I'm still going to work things out. I mean, that's normal every day. I mean, if you're not actually consciously thinking of things like that? You
Yeah.
must be, you must
I
be
was
seriously no idea, really. Let's be honest.
I was safe to feel those emotions. I was safe to have the anxiety,
It's a
right?
key
I
word.
knew
It's a key word, isn't
yeah,
it? Safe.
yeah, yeah.
I know
So
myself.
that was quite the journey. But it was much easier than it could have been
Okay.
because I had her in my life.
Yes.
So then about a year after that, um, she broke up with me.
Right.
And it was a shock, it was heartbreaking, but that's where the real work kicked in. And so she told me she didn't understand why she was breaking up with me. She didn't know why, but she felt that she should. And ironically, I was the one who had taught her to trust her body and trust herself. And so it is what it is. Who knows like the real reason? It's not my story. But what I did was I told myself, and I went back and I looked through my journal, and within like half an hour of her leaving my house, I was journaling that I was going to feel the pain and I was going to do everything that I knew I should do.
Yep.
And so for the first time in my life, I took all the tools that I had gained from everything that had happened to me in the last few years. And at each step, I got more tools to deal with it, but I'd never used them all at the same time.
So you
And
journaled. You did meditation. You understood mindset, where your mindset was, choice, peace of mind.
yeah,
You understood, the effect of cortisol on your body. You understood good eating habits. So it's how you keep that vibration up and understand from the learning experience. Even though
yeah,
it's a common emotion, we're not going to suppress that we're upset because someone left us or something
yeah,
happened. It's how
yeah,
it's expressing that. I did a video on that, expressing that emotion, and then bringing it back and going, right, how can we use that to
yeah,
better ourselves?
yeah. So I one of the biggest things was I determined that I was going to feel the emotion. I was going to let it flow through me, and I wasn't going to store anything in.
And that's the scariest
And
bit, isn't it, Laverne? Like, if you tell people to actually really deeply feel that emotion, they don't do it, do they? They really block it out.
no, and the reason or the what I use to try to convince people to feel their emotion is there's that saying, the secret you seek or the treasure you seek is in the cave you fear to enter.
Makes
And
total
feel
sense. The forest of fear.
yeah. So feeling your emotion is going into that cave. And when you go into that cave, it's dark, it's scary, and you walk for a little bit, and then you're feeling your emotion. But then you come out of the cave on the other side, and you're looking out on this valley that's the most beautiful valley you've ever seen. It's nice and sunny. You feel so good. So then you walk through that valley a little bit, and then you come on another cave, and you're like, hey, I did this before. I could probably go into this cave. And so you go in the cave, it's dark, it's scary, but then you come out and it's a bigger valley and it's better than the last one. And it keeps getting better every time. And every time I felt my emotion, every time I tapped into my inner child pain, I was happier. I was lighter. Right. And so
It was really weird.
it
Sorry about that. So it just dropped down a bit. Sorry, keep going.
yeah. And it's at the point now, it's not even scary anymore because well, when I tap into my pain now, I feel gratitude for what I'm about to feel when I'm finished feeling it.
Yep.
Because I know what's coming, and what's coming is better than what I was feeling before.
Wow. So just quickly before
But
we do part three, and we're going to part three, ladies and gentlemen. This is too good. Also, we had a few issues with the gremlins inside the computer, but just to express what Laverne's been going through, I went through the Hurricane Beryl in Houston in July. Yeah. And it was exactly the same thing, mate. I was told I was locked up in a hot room for 9 hours, from 9 o'clock till 6 o'clock in the morning, when there was no There was not many. The toilets weren't working properly. We had no air conditioning, no electricity, little to no food. All right, at the time, water, fair enough, but kept the doors closed. Kept doors closed because of certain things that I won't express, but you know what I'm getting at when there's darkness. Windows closed, mozzies and intruders. We'll leave it at that, mate. I called for a sweat lodge. I damn well got it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first time I've actually talked to my inner child properly. It's made a massive difference in my life. 2 days of it. Not sitting there
Wow.
9 hours, mate. 9 hours, my friend. You get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get it. 9 hours and you're talking. You've got this person going, right, so what's happening, Nada? And you get in there and you feel the emotion coming from that inner child. It's the first time I've ever actually done it. And I called for a sweat lodge. I wanted to do a Native American sweat lodge. I actually got it in Houston. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to keep going. Part 3 coming up because we had a bit of a glitch at the start. Laverne's going to talk about his journey now as a spiritual coach, life coach, personal development master. We're going to come back very, very soon. Go get yourself a drink. Get ready to find out why you should go and see Laverne. And he's got the tools and the experience to help you through your times of need. We'll talk to you very, very soon.